Hey guys!
Hello!
Welcome back to Wandering into Wellness. So today we were talking to a very interesting lady,
Diana McCauley.
Diana McCauley, who we met in Meadows in the Mountains all of those months ago. We're very late getting this one out.
Yeah, well we just got so much stuff to get out, it's exciting.
It's too exciting, too many fun chats.
Yeah, and she was just such a great woman, my God.
I mean, she knew of your, what was it, the home birthing midwives lady?
Ina May Gaskin.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a proper homesteader.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and she's really the idea that you have in your head of a homesteader when you think of that person. She has the beautiful grey hair, super fit, super active mind,
constantly
super
looking at the plants
inquisitive.
around her, like everything that was there in front of her was something of interest. And then I was asking her, like, what did you do for, what herbs do you use for this? And forget it, you can't have that. She's like, oh yeah, you can use that. Oh yeah, you can use that. But she doesn't, she's very unassuming.
Well, her thing was about intuitive plant medicine, right? So it wasn't about prescribed information that you got taught by someone else. It was about living in your environment and trying the stuff out on yourself and on your own body and sitting with your intuition in that and going, does this feel like this is right for me?
Yeah. And was there a particular plant she sat with?
There was.
Was it nettle or was it elder? There was some. Anyway, you'll have a listen and you'll find out. And it's a really lovely chat. She's very mellow, and it was funny. We were in this environment in the Rhodope Mountains in Bulgaria, which was just kind of like at once hyper stimulating and at the same time like totally zen.
It was like Woodstock on the top of a mountain.
Basically was
kind of like that.
I mean, like insofar as you can say you're at Woodstock, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It was beautiful. It's an amazing sustainable festival. They built it literally. I remember when we got there, we got to like the village where the festival was located, and then I was like, do you remember I pointed at you? I was like, no, it's up there. And there were just these, like on the top of a mountain because we'd driven like through these switchback roads going for ages. And then you get to this place in the middle of the night, there's loads of people humming around, having like, I don't know, all sorts of madness. And then we're like, where's the festival? And then I just saw it on the top of the mountain. You could sort of hear it. You just see these lights on the peak. It was like a cartoon. It was insane. Just this mountain peak like this. And
you're
like,
thinking like,
little lights on top.
How are you going to get up there?
And the thing was, we couldn't.
That is true.
Unless you were in a four-wheel drive, there was no way up the mountain that night because it had been raining. So it's a beautiful, very ethereal, ephemeral, amazing occasion. We'd invite anybody who has the thought or the want to get involved to go, and we'll be there again this year.
Yeah, Meadows in the Mountains. So check it out online. There's loads of beautiful photography around it, and it's won a lot of awards actually now for sustainability and best music festival, best European music festival, top 10 music festivals in the world.
Yeah, and was in
what was
the big magazine? Something
huge. Something like Marie Claire or Vogue, I think it was
Vogue
actually.
Was,
and Diana was just a nice kind of happenstance, wasn't she? She was there giving a workshop on intuitive plant medicine and plant healing, and she's very much not holding herself up as an expert.
She's reticent, and she was quite cagey. She's quite reticent with us when we went to go and chat with her. She doesn't have a presence online. There's no way of contacting her, so if you have questions for her, forget it. We'll try and field what we can. But it was just a lovely, a great moment, I think, to chat to somebody who was, in a place where they should have seemed out of sorts, and yet they were totally at home.
Yeah, and it was just such a special thing to be literally just sitting in a meadow, like a wild meadow, on the top of a mountain with someone who has made that their life choice to kind of have children and then go, what can I do to heal my children? What can I do to live in the way that's most in touch with the environment and not plonk myself down onto an area of land and impose my stuff, but more live sort of synergistically with the land around me. And we were there sitting there, it was like spiders crawling all over us, nettle stings, all sorts of craziness. And it's just a lovely little break from reality, really, isn't it, to listen to?
Yeah,
so I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, go enjoy that. And don't forget, please, to check out our sponsors who help us every step of the way. So, Clear Light Saunas. I'm a huge fan of infrared saunas, and if you see, one of the biggest emerging paradigms in medicine at the moment is that exposure to heat and exposure to cold. So, phasic hyperthermia and phasic hypothermia in terms of, helping with mood, helping with healing, inflammation, post-surgery stuff. Immune system support, like kind of everything. It pretty much a top-down effect, and that's, because the sun gives us infrared, and this is a way you can get it in Ireland, maybe where it's not so plentiful, and in a really concentrated dose. And just, it's a beautiful thing to do. Yeah,
it's like a little bit of self-care in the middle of your day.
Yes, it
and
is.
They smell good.
Lovely cedary saunas.
And you can do your meditation inside it, because it has a little chamber for your phone that you can play your
it's got speakers, it connects with Bluetooth.
Yep. get a sauna.
Get a damn
If you don't, get some protein powder, vitamin zest.
Yes, indeed.
Support
Also
your
useful.
body, or your good green stuff, which supports all the 12 systems of the body. It's like the new alternative to multivitamin.
Absolutely, yeah. Packed with adaptogenic herbs to support your nervous system's response to stress, and really high potency, good forms of things like magnesium, vitamin B12. You can drop loads of supplements and
you just
take
buy
this
that
guy.
one thing. If you just did that for your family, it would be a massive change, I think.
Done, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then Swivel.
Swivel.
This little guy we're recording on right now, hello. He tracks us around the room, tracks us around the world on our little travels. Hopefully going to come with us to Ibiza and to CERN and to LA this year, who knows.
Exciting things,
anyway,
exciting things.
So stay tuned and watch out Diana McCauley. Hope you enjoy.
Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, Finn
Hello.
and Lydia back here from Wandering to Wellness. Thanks for joining us. And this afternoon we're really blessed to be at Meadows in the Mountains and joined by Diana McCauley, who is a folk herbalist. Something very close to our hearts, very close to mine. And oh, there's our big spider again we were just talking about. Nearly up the shorts.
We're probably in nature today.
We're really in
We've
nature
got grasshoppers on us.
I think we're just in his path, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Had his path now.
A few minutes ago.
He's gone now.
Yeah.
He's on his way.
So that was the M50 of giant spiders. Right, so Diana has very kindly agreed to have a chat with us. Diana's talking at this festival on intuitive plant medicine, which I think is something, again, that's herbs, when it comes to conventional Western society, are considered esoteric in themselves, and when you get off Western medical herbalism into intuitive herbal healing and the nature of herbs and sitting with plants, I think you're in a whole different paradigm. And there's a lot of people who would be exposed and taking their magnesium and probiotics on a daily basis who still would have probably a lot to learn about intuitive plant medicine and that tapping into nature at that level. So what brought you to your practice, and what continues to inspire in your practice?
Well, really what brought me to my interest in herbalism was becoming a mother at a certain age and having children who I realized I needed to learn how to take care of them, and I was a bit daunted by the idea of the medical profession that we are blessed to have in our country. And I also had my eldest child had a condition of epilepsy from a fairly young age that asked for anticonvulsant drugs and all kinds of things. So that really pushed me onto a journey of looking for solutions for him.
Yeah.
And it just, I always lived in the country. I lived on a communal farm where there was a big openness. Everybody was exploring, eating from the land and using medicine from the trees and the plants around us. So it was a very natural journey for me to just begin to learn and ask and find out what I could eat off the land and how you would deal with a fever, etc.
And did you, can you remember what the first sort of remedies you would have been making or first remedies you would have been picking to use with your kids, those types of things?
I think the first things that I learned about were things I could eat.
Okay.
Because it became very clear to me living on the land, even though I grew up on a farm, but there was no movement towards eating wild food how I grew up. It was all cultivation. So when I had my own piece of land, or I was living in my own spot, I started realizing that in the past people just ate what was on the land around them, and I was thinking, why would I have to go to the store and buy greens when it's all green? So I started exploring what I could eat from the land, and asking and experimenting. Some things I knew were not poisonous, so I started practicing.
Fair enough.
Things like that.
Did you have many whoopsies along the way?
No.
No?
Well, one whoopsie was the daylily, which is not an indigenous plant in our country, but it was brought with the people from Holland.
Okay, interesting.
And they're edible plants, but if you overeat them, they're emetic. So so my son, who you may have met here at the festival, my son, who was the one that brought me to this festival, he was crazy about the daylily flower, and he just ate it like crazy until it made him sick. So, I learned that something may be good in small portions, but not in huge portions.
Kind of everything.
Yeah.
We're constantly learning that lesson as well.
Yeah.
That's gas. Cool.
I find I have a son who's going to be 4, and I think it is a really natural process. I grew up in a more natural way, and my mom would have always used homeopathy, but I lived like 7,500 feet up in the mountains, so there was no doctor and there was no hot running water or electricity or that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So there was a move towards having to rely on yourself to use kind of intuition and common sense towards things of, okay, if there's a fever, look first, check the body, is there an infection somewhere,
Right.
what can we see on the body, and then make decisions from there. And I think when you become a mother, it's so natural to go, hang on, I need to start thinking about, I know best my child, I know my child best, and I need to start thinking about, do I have the power to make those decisions rather than handing that responsibility to someone else. And I think a lot of times we go to the doctor with our kids when they're sick and they tell us something and it doesn't maybe sit right with us. It feels like, I think there's something more, but we don't have the empowerment to say, actually, no, I don't think this is right. And it seems to me that that journey that you went on would have led you naturally to get that empowerment for your children.
I think I did have a crisis. You asked me if I had any crises. Not so much eating things, although that was a small one, but the same child who was my middle child, had an earache, and I didn't want to take him to the hospital or the doctor because I knew he'd be given an antibiotic, and I didn't want my children to have antibiotics. And so I was doctoring him, looking things up in books, and I eventually did give him willow bark tea, and his fever got quite high, and I was beginning to feel rather irresponsible. But I finally broke the fever and totally got better with the willow bark tea and ice on his head and feet in cayenne pepper water, and like we just pushed his fever until it broke. And that was the first really big breakthrough for me, actually. In using herbal medicine.
Empowering yourself in that you can.
And really trusting the process of taking that risk. And even though any doctor would have thought I was being irresponsible, it was the right choice. It was the right choice for me.
And do you see like that empowerment? Do you see a change, a shift in a positive direction at the moment, or do you see it still kind of rather tumbling downhill? Like,
you mean in the
general population, like where you are?
I think there's huge opening for every aspect of life right now amongst your generation. I don't know about my generation. I don't know whether my generation is changing much.
I think it's an interesting thing people talk about, that we all get more conservative as we get older. So if you're not opened up to things when you're young, I think the chances of you, once you have things to protect in life, to start to be very, unguarded and try things out is less likely.
We have to take those, we have to learn our empowerment gradually as we grow, I guess. So, I forget what your question was exactly.
I don't know what it was either.
I wanted to say something about fevers. I think that for a lot of people, the fevers are a tough one, and for us, for me with my son, I also wouldn't give him medication if he has a fever. I just let the fever run its course. I let him sweat it out, and then I find that whatever illness just passes through much quicker. The body does what it needs to do. And that was something that I had learned. It was something that I had read about. It was something that I actually went to an interesting seminar with a great doctor who talked about kind of using natural techniques in mothering. But every time they get a fever, it's still that moment as the fever stays high, and maybe it's climbing and it's 39 and it's 40, and you're going, I know this is right, I've done it a million times, I trust this process, and yet you're thinking, if something goes wrong, people are going to turn around and go, well, you didn't give the Nurofen, you made the irresponsible choice. And every time it's worked. And in fact, there is a movement now in modern medicine to say you don't give medication unless there's a lot of pain, and that would be pain relief as opposed to fever bringing
That's
down.
Interesting.
But my doctor's brilliant and he supports that, but a lot of doctors don't, and a lot of people are very judgmental about that, and it's hard to stick to those choices, those intuition choices.
Yeah, so like when you talk about intuition, so one of the, I was telling you, I was listening to a podcast recently about intuitive plant medicine, and the guy who teaches about it was saying that people, you know, will go to the health food store and permissively pick up rhodiola, cordyceps, holy basil, turmeric, whatever, and all the other nutritives, and chuck them all in together because they're told it's a cocktail, it's all good things, they're all adaptogenic, and they're all going to support their whatever. But then with intuitive plant, as you were saying, like, you have to slow right the way down. He's like, first you find the herb, and then you maybe sit for 3 months before even ingesting the herb, getting to know it. Can you explain that process? Because that's fascinating.
Yes, because I think what's happened over the generations is that we've so become disconnected from the earth, you know, and the plants that grow on the land, and we actually are out of the habit. We actually want to acquire these medicines. We've become very intellectual in the way that we approach herbology, just the same as we would approach anything. It's our orientation these days. And so to sit with the plant, it's like sitting with a drum or sitting with any magical thing that we want to really connect fully in our hearts and in our essence with. So it's really hard to just do that if you're not living close to the plants, really. Although you can learn to do things like dowsing and more in a meditative way, learn to connect with these medicines. But I guess when I talk about intuitive herbalism, I'm really meaning to really take that time to get to know the plants around you and to listen to what the plants are wanting you to know about what they have to offer. And I don't say that I've done my studies through books and through herbalists that are teaching about various medicines. I've read so much about various plants, and a lot of my use of them is based on my intellectual study and then my practicing to use it over time. But I'm very much now practicing listening and dreaming and meditating with individual plants that I want to know better and seeing what they have to say to me. So at the moment when one is sick, it's really just, you might have a choice of 3 or 4 herbs to use, and you might be weighing the value of each one. But you know, if you go into that inner place and really sit with the plants, it really does ultimately become clear which one, you know, it's like making a choice about anything. Something
it just
calls
reveals.
you.
Yeah. And do you find, are there particular herbs that you have a real affinity for, like plants that you found have given you a lot over time?
Oh, for sure, but they're mostly the ones that I know around me, of course. I don't really use plants that I don't know anymore. Like, you know, things like, of course I use yarrow and mullein and plantain and St. John's wort, the plants that grow around me.
And they're very indigenous to us in Ireland as well. It's funny, we're very similar.
And they're here all around us.
Yeah, what are we looking at actually? Tell us.
Well, I don't know. This one is not a medicinal herb. I think I was told it was a weed here.
It feels like it's a sage or something, doesn't it?
It does look like
sage, and I thought it looked a lot like Annie's hyssop when I first looked at it, but it's I don't know what it is actually. It's not a sage. Well, it is square. Yeah, it is square. I haven't nobody's told me about it. I haven't found. There isn't, well, there's thistles, which we know. I think this thistle is called the Caroline thistle, something like that.
I don't know, it's really low growing.
Well, no, I think these are just young.
Oh, is it going to pop up? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Possibly. I think it's the one that's common here. That's what I was told by the woman that was
do you
teaching
use
herbology.
thistle much?
Well, I use milk thistle.
Yeah,
I grow milk thistle, but it's not indigenous, but it becomes
What is indigenous
annual.
when it comes down to it, Ada? What do you reckon?
Well, we have thistles. We have a Canadian thistle.
Yeah.
And they're bitters, and they're very good for cooling and for liver. So thistles are always good.
Yeah.
And of course, you can always juice them.
Yeah.
If you don't want to deal with
thistle before.
Yeah, if you don't want to deal with the prickles.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you kind of have to deal
milk
with the prickles
thistle's
first.
big enough that you can cut the spikes off.
So describe. So milk thistle, the Scottish one is the big globy one. Milk thistle, what does it look like at the top? How does it differ from?
It has a big globe.
Oh, it's a big globe as well, and the same purple.
Yeah,
at the top. Okay.
But the leaves have got this white ripple through the green.
Okay, yeah. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Very good, nice.
And blessed thistle is another thistle that I use. They're all bitter, especially blessed thistle.
Yeah.
And they're multi-use, but they're definitely good for fevers and for cooling your system and for cleaning down heat in your liver.
Yeah.
So calming.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's like cooling and calming herbs.
And so they're edible. They're like almost like food.
Yeah. There's a nice thing. A guy who I speak to a fair bit, Dr. Robert Kirk in the UK. His foundation is called the Alliance for Natural Health, and they put across a new food plate in the last year or two, and on it they have it's pretty, it's not out there, but it's very progressive. But he has 5% of his plate is herbs, and I think it's very challenging, I suppose, to current food society and food culture and that sort of thing. And other than fine dining restaurants, herbs aren't considered food. They're considered even garnish when it comes to fine dining. They're not considered natural. You don't make a salad from herbs.
Except maybe chamomile and mint tea.
True. And lovage. There's quite a lot of lovage in lovage sorbets. And
oh,
that
really?
Kind of stuff.
Nice.
Well, yeah, lovage is a fairly strong tasting plant. I mean, of course, there's parsley and celery, which I guess are herbs, and basil. Basil.
Yeah.
I was going to say there's so many, like dandelion is both medicinal and nutritive.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so beneficial.
Yeah. Dandelion.
Nettles.
Nettles are amazing, aren't they? Nettles the one we keep coming back to, and they're so pervasive in Ireland. And I only learned in the last few years that they're, I became addicted almost to the idea of adaptogens, knowing that how much of a affinity they have for my nervous system and for people who I recommend them to. But I only found out kind of more lately that nettle is a powerful adaptogen as well, and having an indigenous adaptogen like that, and so nourishing and so tonifying and so iron rich, it's really nice to have those sorts of herbs on the doorstep.
It's an amazing plant.
Yeah.
And it always grows near people, especially if you've been farming. It likes rich
soil. I know, sees a reflection of rich soil, but then farmers are like, the nettles.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well because I think now like a common condition that people are diagnosed with is adrenal burnout.
Right, and it's an adrenal booster.
And it's the best. It's so good for that. But we tend to it's easier for us to go like, I'll just go to the health food store and buy nettle tonic rather than picking the nettle at the time that it's right and making our own
that's
tincture.
the thing, and people actually finding a lot of the herbs that are sold on the mainstream market are not necessarily in their full potency. They're definitely not in their full potency. How have they been? And they're all ground up. So they're a lot of the goodness is leached out if it's oxidized if you don't use them within a certain length of time.
Yeah, there's so much option and opportunity there, isn't there, in our back gardens?
Well, the other thing about gathering your own medicines is that you have a relationship with them, and I really do think that the medicines respond. That there's consciousness in the plants.
Without a doubt.
That we have not been conscious of that ourselves. We've lost that awareness, like the indigenous people and around the are very aware of the consciousness of plants. And they honor that relationship. And then the plants respond by offering their complete medicine.
That's so beautiful, isn't it?
So beautiful.
It comes back to that thing of just being removed from the earth, isn't it? And removed from our environment, that our natural way is to go, I'll buy it because someone else made it, so it's safe.
And they actually feel they'll pay more for it.
It's free. It's around you all free, but I'll pay money and then it's probably going to work better.
It's going to be better. Well, it's like that with many things. It's many things.
Divesting or whatever, or autonomy or whatever to somebody else. So you're saying you herbs that have meant a lot, or that you use a lot, like yarrow, mullein. Have you got a favorite that you use at the moment yourself? A lot for you at the moment.
I'm using hawthorn right now.
Okay, cool.
Because I just want to really work on my circulation and my my heart function, just to make sure I'm supporting myself.
Yeah.
And it's calming too. It's very nourishing to your nervous system.
Yeah.
It supports your brains just generally.
Yeah, it's a beautiful herb, isn't it?
And it's very available.
Yeah, isn't it? Do you tincture it, or how do you do your whole thing?
I do tincture it.
Yeah.
I do tincture it
Yeah.
because it's so available then.
Yeah.
It's easy to use, but you could dry it. You can dry it.
Yeah.
And you can use the flowers or the
so it's usually the
haws.
haws. Yeah, that are useful. What?
But mostly I use the haws.
Okay, yeah. Are they seen as more of a concentration, I think, of like flavonoids and all those sorts of things from a Western perspective, aren't they?
I'm sure they're very nutritive as well.
Yeah.
I haven't actually studied that part.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
But they're in the rose family. I'm sure they're very similar to rose hips in their food value.
Yeah.
They're not quite as edible. They're a little drier.
Stringent, aren't they? Yeah, they're really
well,
stringent.
it's not so much the flavor, but just they're very full of seeds.
Okay, yeah.
And but you could do the same thing. You could dry them and reconstitute them with water, and then soak them, and then strain them.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
Or you could juice them and strain them.
Yeah, I never used hawthorn as a plant other than the haws. That's a nice thing.
No.
And so, do you have a house? I'm imagining your house. I think I would probably fall in love with. But do you have a house full of tinctures and like a lot of remedies that you've built up over the years?
I have a lot of remedies.
I imagine.
And I'm sort of called upon to, if people need medicine.
The community.
Some people do, yeah. It's mostly I do it for my family and friends mostly.
Nice.
I don't make a business of it.
Okay.
Sometimes I get paid for things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I trade.
Yeah.
But I make sure that I have what I need. I have my urinary system tincture.
Yeah.
It's a combination of a few different plants.
Yeah.
That I like earthy.
Yeah.
And couch grass.
Okay, yeah.
And yellow dot.
Nice.
What did you say?
Restaro?
I don't know what that is.
It's not just another one.
Restaro?
Yet another flower. There's so many of them.
I don't know that plant.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few I have in there. Let me see what else I put in.
Do you use horsetail a lot?
Yeah, horsetail goes in it.
Yeah.
And I think I do put yarrow in it. There's a
That's a nice mix.
And actually, I sometimes. No, I don't put golden seal in that very often, but I could, but I don't.
Yeah.
Well, mallow, I always put mallow in it.
It's such a lovely thing, mucous membranes. We both have needed that.
That's another.
I know it's mean to
Your
point.
mucous membranes, Lydia. Get them sorted.
That's another plant I use a lot. Mallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really lovely one.
And I guess what's really awesome for me is that my daughter, who grew up on a farm, she was born on her father's farm, and I didn't live there forever, but she has lived on this farm now again since she was a young woman, and with her children, and she has a big herbal cupboard as well.
I was going to ask about that. I was going to say, did your kids respond well to it and soak up the knowledge and love it? Or
Absolutely.
Did they just think that you
No,
were
my children count on the medicines.
Oh, great.
My son
That's
phones me up whenever there's a sickness that he is wondering about for him or his partner.
Oh, fantastic.
And he
That's
asks.
great.
So it's good because I feel that I didn't have these teachings as a child, and mine have holes in them. I only know what I know, but it's something to pass on.
Enough to be really useful.
What a beautiful thing to pass on to your children.
Yeah. And so it's a way of life.
Lovely. And can I ask, so what did you spend your life working at when you weren't you were saying your life wasn't you didn't earn your keep from herbal medicine or from was it very different?
I trained as a school teacher when I was younger.
Okay.
And I wasn't happy in the regular mainstream school system. It didn't suit my feeling of completeness in education. Yeah. And I ended up going up to reserves in northern Ontario and teaching First Nations people.
Oh, wow.
So I spent most of my teaching life doing that.
Wow.
And then when I moved back to Ontario, back to where I lived in Ontario and I started having my children, I supply taught. So for my money, I taught school.
Great,
and just taught enough so that I could do my homesteading life,
Right.
which is my gardening and my herbaling and my foraging.
And do you Do you have a few acres where you are now, or what sort of plot are you on?
I'm on well, for the first 25, 30 years with my kids when they were young, we lived on a communal farm that was 100 acres.
Wow. Okay.
And now I've moved back to my daughter's property where her dad also lives, and she lives there with her partner and her children. So I have a little cabin, I have a little section.
Okay, nice.
That I live on.
Enough, yeah.
And did you birth your children at home?
My second two. No, actually, no. Only my last one. I forgot. The first two I had in the hospital.
Yeah.
I wish
you're
I'd
moving
had
that
them all.
direction, probably.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
My daughter was birthed on the farm where she lives now, and
nice.
all her children were.
Really?
Yeah.
So nice, because I teach a lot of active birthing workshops and work with women when they're preparing for their birthing time. I had a home birth too, and when I was doing all my trainings, I was reading so much about the farm in Tennessee with Diana McCauley.
Oh yes.
It sounds so similar to that situation, but just so lovely that these women kind of, they needed midwives on the farm, and they just intuited. It was the same thing.
Yeah.
They followed that path of listening to the women when they were birthing, watching the women when they were birthing, and now the farm has the lowest rate of interventions in the world for a birthing centre.
Wow.
Oh, I can believe that.
0.1 transfer rate.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. When last time I read it, it was.
Okay, yeah.
And they're fairly radical too.
Yeah.
The teachings of Ina May Gaskin, where she was a rebellious.
Totally. And strong, really
strong woman.
Really strong woman.
Yeah, her book certainly supported me through all my births, even though I didn't have the support to do home births. With my first son, who was born up in northern Labrador, I tried to have him at home, but I was kind of bullied into going out to the hospital.
That's what happens, yeah.
It happens a lot, I think, and often I feel that the women might never have thought about home birth, and then they get pregnant, and at some point in that, something draws them towards that. But often the partners or the family at large or their doctors around them are the people that put the fear back into them. And they start to feel, you can see they start to feel in class, oh wait, maybe I could do this, maybe I could trust my body to do this. Right. But then the people around them are going, oh no, what happens if this happens, or what happens if this happens, and then suddenly that empowerment's gone. And you're out again. You're not in that place of intuition. And birth is so much about being able to listen.
It is. You can actually have a very long labor.
Yeah.
My people I know who have had very long labors, like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's not really considered normal in the medical system, or they kind of don't allow you.
Faster than that.
They want a 12-hour turnaround now. That's in the hospitals in Ireland
I
anyway.
would think.
It's a 12-hour turnaround. And that what you're saying is it's so true. A normal first time or a typical first time labour might be 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't fit into that system that we have now. It doesn't allow for you to be able to follow that process or trust that process. And I think then when that gets speeded along and it gets hurried along, often there's a sense of failure, like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it myself. I had to have someone come to help me. And that's a real shame, because it maybe, who knows how it would have gone.
What's the word they use about labour, when labour stalls?
Labour
stalls. There's a word, there's a term they use for labour that progresses. The labour just never progresses.
Or ineffectual contractions.
Oh, ouch. That's
so
a
annoying.
Culture there.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Or the other thing is it's language as well, isn't it? It's about, a lot of women get to the hospital and instead of saying, wow, well done, you're 4 centimetres, they go, oh, you're only 4 centimetres, so no, you've a while left. And then the woman's like, oh, what? This could go on for hours, what am I going to do? Whereas if you have someone going, hey, great job, nice one, you've got to 4 centimetres, then they go, oh, okay, I'm doing great, feel good about this. That's the power of words, that it comes back to that intuition thing again. If you're allowed to be in your own space and to just feel it.
It's so different being in your own space. It was so awesome having a home birth. And, I guess women are, it is available now. Is it available in Ireland?
At the moment it's in a flux. When I had my son 4 years ago, it was the last year, well, pretty much the last year that the independent home birth midwives were being supported still by our health system. So it was part funded by them. You had to still meet a lot of criteria. You couldn't be above a certain age, and you couldn't have certain conditions and all that kind of stuff. but my midwife was an independent midwife who was supported by the HSC, which is our health system. And then there was a lot of litigation and stuff that went on, and a lot of the rules changed that made it almost impossible for the home birth.
Kind of medicalized home birth when the midwives became legal in our country.
Because then they have to act upon that.
Well, they're under certain rules. They can't allow certain things to happen, but
so
I still find them amazing.
Is it what's the state of legality at the moment in the States? How is it?
Well, I'm in Canada.
Oh, you're Canada. Sorry, you were saying Ontario.
Ontario. It's legal. It's covered by OHIP.
Okay.
And,
okay. I feel like is Canada still quite left wing? Is it quite liberal in comparison to? Or am I very wrong in saying that?
Well, I live in Ontario, so you may be wrong in saying that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Enough said.
We're a little bit more conservative than, let's say, BC.
Okay.
Or Quebec, I guess, in some ways. But we do have OHIP in Ontario. Yeah. I guess we have pretty much so-called free home medical care in Canada.
Yeah.
It's just that it's only certain things are covered.
Right.
So in Ontario, for sure, we can have midwives wherever. If there's enough, if you get in on time and if you can get a midwife.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you use any herbs or plants after your birth in postnatal recovery? I
used yarrow for the astringency, for tightening up my organs. And I used raspberry.
Raspberry.
I think my daughter has been way more educated on how to take care of herself for her birthing.
That's cool.
And she's been very on it, using especially raspberry and nettle and yarrow if she needed it.
Right.
And I wasn't quite as well versed in herbs when I had my children.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I am now, because it was
That's
kind of the beginning, so it wasn't quite as familiar to me. I just didn't use anything.
Yeah.
I was fine,
I hadn't thought about nettle, but of course that's a brilliant one.
It's very mineralizing, and if you're a bleeder at all, it certainly helps you to build up your blood again. And also yellow dock.
Yellow dock?
Yeah.
Like dock leaf?
Yellow dock.
It's a lymphatic cleanser is what I noticed, but is it got other?
It's definitely iron.
Iron rich as well. Okay,
it's really iron.
It's deep rooting as well.
Definitely. It's the herb of choice that we use for building up your blood if you've hemorrhaged.
Okay.
Or if your blood is low, your iron is low in your blood.
Okay.
Yellow dock. It's there's burdock. We have the two docks. We've got the dock and the burdock.
I have lots of dock in my lawn. It's great.
Really?
Yeah. I've planted sort of redid my garden this year. I'd left it go wild for about 3 or 4 years with bees there, and then finally this year I'm kind of doing some work and putting in some fun things outdoors like a sauna, and I decided to replant one side of the garden, and because the lawn was dug up, I was like, great, here's an opportunity to reseed it and put in wildflowers and stuff. And I put in loads of wildflowers. Of course, what comes up first, it's all of the dock, all the creeping buttercup, straight away. I was like, wow, it looked like there was going to be grass here somewhere. I was like, there you go, that's life though, isn't it?
But grass isn't. Although
no, it's not. I know.
If you have the couch grass, the lawn roots,
that's true. Yeah, true.
Well, it's good for any kind of plant where they can at it.
Breaks down uric acid, isn't it? One of those.
It's good for urine.
Yeah. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, I genuinely could have a wonderfully chat. We could go for a lot of hours about herbs.
Yes.
Discovery. It's lovely to see you open to it and to see you learning still. And we're at the beginnings of our journeys. I think we're where you were maybe 30 years ago, getting into it as well.
So you might have a little bit more theory than I had,
but that's not where the wisdom is it? That's for sure.
Well,
anyway. Diana, thank you. So thank you for coming on.
Right. Thank you. So Thanks for watching. Cheers.